Hello SuperCoaches, massive news today. The 2025 Team Picker is live. That means you can dive in now, pick a team, see all the prices, all the positions. You will need a SuperCoach Plus subscription to do it. So hopefully you have one already. If not, you can buy one for $29.95 for the season. I'm going to run through my team right now and I'm actually pretty happy with it. Usually there's a whole bunch of placeholders in my team at this time of the year, but there are some really good bargains floating around for 2025. Now, you will see that this is actually my team from last year, the final round of last year. One of the big mistakes that people make is that they don't click this button here, the Team Picker. So make sure you pick on that. And then this now brings up my side that I've been fiddling with in the staging site for, the last week or so. Relatively happy with it, as I said. Max Plath is my hooker. So the reasoning for this is I wanted Harry Grant, but then I looked at the draw. Harry Grant has a bye in round 2. So really you want to avoid Storm players from the start of the year. And then you look down the list, you see Damien Cook is next and Jacob Little is next in terms of the most expensive players. But those guys look like they're going to be sharing a hooking role at the Dragons. So I put a line through both of those. I think they're both way overpriced. And then the next guy on the list is Max Plath, who I thought was a revelation last year, both in the back row and at hooker. And he doesn't have a bye until round 13. Dual position is crucial as well. So I've got him locked in for now with Mamazelos as my cheapie. Mamazelos, speaking of Damien Cook, who I just mentioned, he has moved to the Dragons, which means Mamazelos becomes the top hooker at the Rabbitohs, maybe even an 80-minute hooker. So he'll go up from 31 minutes last year to somewhere near 60, hopefully. Onto the front row forwards. Terrell May, I think, is unders. So he's obviously moved from the Roosters to the Tigers. Also there, I think, so he averaged 45 minutes at the Chooks. I think he improves on that at the Tigers. He's also one of the best points per minute guys going around at 1.35, which is just absolutely elite for SuperCoach. So if he improves to even 55 minutes at the Tigers, you're going to see a big increase in his output. The guy who I think is the buy of the year is Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. So he is priced at a discount of $260,000 on his starting price from last year. Coming back from an ACL injury, that's why his price is so low. But, it's Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, and he is one of the top forwards in SuperCoach before that injury happened. So I think he is worth backing. He'll be one of the most popular players. Nafahu White, a lot of movement at the Roosters. They have lost Terrell May, who we just mentioned, Tupanua and Jared Waerea-Hargreaves. So I think Nafahu White, while he probably plays from the bench, he should improve on his 33 minutes from last year. And finally, my cheapie at front row forward is Tom Amone. Not 100% sure about this at the moment, but Canterbury definitely needs some size in their forward pack. They did pretty well last year playing those small middles throughout the season and finished 6th, but then they dropped out of the finals pretty meekly in the end. So hopefully a guy with a bit of size will come in there and play a few minutes in Tom Amone, who's been pretty solid over in the Super League for the last few years. On to back row. Isaiah Papali'i, I think, is underpriced. He has averaged 80 in SuperCoach in the past when he was at a good club, but he was at a bad club for the last couple of years at the Tigers and only averaged around the 60 mark last year. He's now at the 4-time premiers in the Panthers, so attacking stats should be there. I'm not quite sure where he plays. I would love if he's an 80-minute edge back rower. Not sure if that will happen, given that they've got Liam Martin, Scott Sorensen. Maybe he plays hybrid edge middle. Either way, I think he is slightly underpriced. Tom Gilbert, speaking of underpriced, comes in at a discount of $140,000 on his starting price from last year. Again, coming back from an ACL injury, and I know it's a danger backing guys coming back from ACLs, but it also means we get some bargains in SuperCoach. Fini Fuiaki is a guy I've got my eye on, so he's moved from the Cowboys to the Dolphins. The Dolphins have lost some guys, including Ewan Aitken, so I'm hoping that Fini Fuiaki can get a starting edge back row spot there, although he is competing with another guy in my team, in the guy I just mentioned in Tom Gilbert. So I'll wait and see what happens with final teams, but I do think he is underpriced. On to Cohen Hess. Speaking of Finifuaki, him leaving the club means that Hess could get a bigger role. Again, coming back from an ACL. I've got so many guys coming back from ACLs, which is a little bit worrying, but he is certainly underpriced, about 100k less than what he was previously. Josh Schuster is arguably the cheapie of the year. I think Wayne Bennett will bring out the best in him. He's averaged 60 in SuperCoach in the past. And then finally, Halangahu. There's a lot of buzz coming about him from the Dragons. Hopefully he can jag a bench spot, maybe even slide into an edge starting back row spot at the Dragons. We've done some big videos on him previously in the off-season, so have a look at those. Nathan Cleary, I actually think, so he's obviously the best halfback in SuperCoach history. I actually think he will be a little bit of a pod to start the season because he's coming off that off-season surgery. Plus his draw is actually pretty good. I'll just bring it up for you now. Doesn't have a buy until round 11, so you can hold him essentially until Origin starts. Lewis Dodd is my cheapie there. He's the Englishman who's come over to play halfback for Souths, and I think 330 odd K is a pretty good price. Onto the 5'8s, Cody Walker and Dylan Brown. The thing I like about both of these guys is that they've retained dual position, so you can switch them around at points during the season. Walker, I think, will benefit from having Wayne Bennett at the Rabbitohs. And Dylan Brown is a guy that you can carry potentially for the entire year because he doesn't play Origin. He's so crucial over that period, and he also doesn't have a bye until very late. I believe it's round 8, and Cody Walker doesn't have a bye until round 12. So guys that you can potentially hold for a long time. Onto the centre wingers, I think Campbell Graham is very underpriced. In fact, is about $300,000 underpriced compared to where he was at in 2023. Obviously, coming back from a really serious sternum injury is the issue, but there could be some real value there. Nwanga Natawazi had one really good game at the Roosters last season. Of course, he's the former Wallaby. The Roosters have lost Suali'i, Joseph Manu and Michael Jennings, so you'd think that he walks into a backline spot there and is underpriced given that he only played that one game. On to Jack Bird, looks like he'll play lock for the Tigers, so it could be an opportunity for him. Billy Smith, again, talking about the Roosters backline. I know this guy is so injury prone, but there are opportunities there. I think Billy Smith and a young kid called Robert Toya could be great options in their backline. Isaiah Tass is a bit of an interesting one. They have lost Alex Johnson to the ACL injury, so I'm hoping that he can sneak in for a wing spot at the Rabbitohs. On to Jackson Purdue, more of a placeholder for now. There are definitely spots open in the back line there at the Cowboys with Valentine Holmes and Kyle Felt having left, and I'm hoping Purdue, given that price, can get into that spot. Jesse McLean, finally. I don't know if this is true or not, but it seemed as though he was ahead of his brother last year before getting injured. Then his brother came in and absolutely killed it. At that price, 230k, I think it's good, and Sunia Taruva has left the club, so there are spots open. The main competition for that spot, though, is probably his brother. Onto the fullbacks. Flex position is going to be crucial here. I think a lot of people are going to be running 3 fullbacks. For me, Tedesco, I'm picking him. He's the most expensive player in the game, but I highly doubt he plays Origin, given Dylan Edwards did so well there last year. Plus, he doesn't have a bye until quite late. I believe it's round 13. So, again, a guy that you can hold for the entire season. I've mentioned Wayne Bennett at Souths a lot, and I'm a little bit worried about how many Souths players I have in my team, but I do think that Latrell Mitchell will get back to his best under Wayne Bennett, who's just the best at the business at bringing out these underperforming players. And then finally, the guy who I think is arguably the cheapie of the year, up there with Josh Schuster, Isaiah Yongi, the young Penrith fullback who's been talked up a lot, but they had to let him go because they brought guys like Blaze Talangi, they've got Dylan Edwards already, they've got Dane Laurie floating around. They had to let him go. He's playing for the Eels, and I think the flex position is a perfect spot to run an extra cheapie and create a lot of cash over those opening rounds. And if he does go well, he'll come into your 17. That's my team for 2025. Get into the team picker right now and pick yours.